bring the first connections to customers?
Back to your question about launch preparation, over the last few hours, the Satellite Operations Center, the SOC, has run through its series of checks so that the team is ready and waiting to pick up the signal from each satellite after it separates from the upper stage. At T-minus 45 minutes, the SOC team gave the final go for launch. Battery status has been monitored, and right now, 36 satellites are warm and cozy inside the fairing at the top of the Soyuz rocket.
And here we go. Let's watch and enjoy this. There we have it. Liftoff for OneWeb Launch 12. Maurizio, how are you feeling?
Oh, marvelous. This is so exciting, Greg. So right now, we are seeing the first stage booster engines doing all the work, pushing up against Earth's gravity, and they will burn for just under 2 minutes. At Arianespace, the operational team is tracking and receiving telemetry data information from the launch vehicle. This is how they will be able to confirm the major flight events and when they have occurred.
And what will the satellites in the fairing at the top of the launch vehicle be experiencing?
So right now, the satellites are experiencing an acceleration of about 4 Gs, which is similar to riding an extreme white-knuckle roller coaster. This is the start of their 4-hour journey before all the 36 satellites are released.
So they're on their way to low Earth orbit right now to become part of the OneWeb constellation. Take us through, if you can, Maurizio, how they're going to separate from the rocket when the time comes.
The satellites are released in a predetermined sequence of 9 separations. Each separation consists of 4 satellites, with the first release starting 1 hour and 11 minutes into the mission, and the 9th and final separation occurring 3 hours and 45 minutes after liftoff. They will be released at an altitude of 450 kilometers and will take a few weeks for them to reach the operational altitude of 1,200 kilometers, slowly moving in an upward spiral. Once a satellite is released, its onboard computer wakes up and communicates with the team at our Satellite Operations Center, who monitors the so-called LEOP phase.
That sequence always amazes me. It should be booster separation any second now, so we're going to keep our eyes peeled on whoever is chasing this with the camera. What are we looking for, Maurizio? Oh, there it was.
Yeah, it's getting closer. We'll be looking for the first stage cutoff and booster separation. This will occur after the booster have burned all their propellant. At that point, they are no longer required and are jettisoned to shed weight.
Now, I know we're just looking at a light, but I think I saw it. Yes, Arianespace have just confirmed that we have had first stage booster separation. Are we now at maximum acceleration then, Maurizio?
Yes, we have the maximum acceleration level at the end of the first stage flight phase. This is thanks to the 4 boosters we just separated. They're arranged around the central core and producing a thrust of 340 tons at liftoff. Right now, the job is to get the launch vehicle away from the Earth.
So we saw the first stage booster separation, just little dot, and those were the live cameras. We're now going to switch to animation. We don't have onboard cameras for today's launch. So the second stage has ignited. Maurizio, what happens during this stage of the flight?
So the second stage engine will burn for just under 3 minutes, and after it's jettisoned, it will be followed by the fairing separation.
Let's talk about the fairing then for a minute, if we can, because that is what is currently protecting the satellites, yeah?
Indeed, Greg. In this initial phase of the launch, the fairing protects the 36 OneWeb satellites which are sitting in the upper part of the Soyuz launcher. At the liftoff, there are acoustic vibrations and also friction, which occurs when the launch vehicle is flying through the dense part of the atmosphere at a very high speed. Hence, the fairing plays the fundamental job of shielding the satellites from the severe conditions during the initial phase of the attack.
And in about a minute, we'll be at an altitude where the fairing can then be jettisoned, right?
That's right. So when we are high enough, there is little atmosphere left. So there's no need to maintain the fairing on the launch vehicle to protect the satellite. So the fairing is jettisoned after the second stage engine cutoff and separation. This would be the first time we would be able to see the satellites. And if we're up there, we'd be able they are attached to a central dispenser in a configuration that resembles a cone on the top.
Yeah, I love it when you describe it like this, the corn on the cob. So how are the OneWeb satellites released from that corn on the cob style central dispenser?
So the central dispenser is attached to the frigate in the upper part of the launcher, and this frigate is the smartest part of the launch vehicle. It has its own brain, and it's able to execute the maneuvers necessary to position the dispenser so it can execute the satellite separation. It's like a school bus drop-off. It will release 4 satellites per stop in a series of 9 separations in total. The frigate, our celestial bus, as we call it, has only 1 gear, and after each drop-off, it becomes lighter. The frigate will have to fire its engine for a shorter period of time after its separation for this very reason. And I think that we're just seeking confirmation from Arianespace that these events have occurred, Greg, right?
Yeah, so we just saw on the animation there that this would be the time where the second stage engine would cut off, the third station engine would ignite, the second stage would separate, and then the fairing would separate. So I'll just wait for confirmation from that in my ear. Tell us a little bit more, Maurizio, what happens after the satellites have been released from your celestial bus, as you put it?
Indeed. So once the satellites are released, the onboard computer wakes them up. And the team at the Startup Operations Center take control of the satellites. And in the meanwhile, I think, Greg, we just received confirmation from...
We've just received confirmation, yeah.
Everything is progressing nominally. So it will take several weeks, a few weeks for them to reach the operational altitude at 1,200 kilometers. As we said, they're slowly moving in an upward spiral.
Maurizio, thank you so much for joining me live for the launch, sharing your knowledge, as always. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Always my pleasure. Thank you, Greg. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. That is not it from me just yet, though. We want to continue our look back at what OneWeb have achieved this year. Let's start with their mission to bring the first connections to customers.
Back to your question.